Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Behar. This week's Dvar Torah is adapted from Rabbi Reisman's weekly Navi Shiur, and he concluded it on Motzei Shabbos with a Vort on Parshas Behar. And that's what he taught us. He said that there's a rule that it's forbidden to steal from a Gentile. You're not allowed to be gozel and akum. However, and that's something everyone agrees with. However, regarding Talos akum, if a Gentile makes a mistake in your favor, do you have to return the amount that he made a mistake on? Some say yes, and some say no. The Be'er Hagolah, the commentary on Shulchan Aruch, written by Moshe Rivkeh, 1591 to 1678. He was someone who was born in Vilna, and he had to flee the gezeras of Tach v'Tat. He fled to Amsterdam. Eventually, he did return to Vilna, but he records that the only thing that he took with him was his calendar. And on this, and the Torah Tamima on this pasuk of Chav Hey Yudalid says that the Be'er Hagolah, which is in Choshen Mishpat, I think 348, says that he wants everyone to know. He says, "Ani kovea zos ladoros." I want everyone to know that I've seen people who became wealthy because of taking advantage of talos akum, and over time that money disappeared. It never stayed. And he saw people who returned the mistakes of the Gentile to them, and they succeeded in wealth that they were able to pass on to future generations. Now, some people, and Rev Epstein points out in his Torah Tamima that you have to think about what he just said about not taking advantage of Gentiles from someone who suffered so much from the Gentile. He went away with no money when he had to flee. The only thing, as we said, was his calendar. I presume he took his talis and tefillin also. And some people object to this idea and say, well, but it's lo sechanem, you shouldn't do various types of favors to a Gentile. So Rabbi Reisman asked Rabbi Rapam, and he said, what's the deal with talos akum? And he said, talos akum, if it's for the benefit strictly of the guy, you can't do. But if it's your own benefit, then you're allowed to return it. For example, if you want to maintain your honesty and your integrity, then you should return the mistake. And Rapam said, or Shlomo Zalman says the same thing by talos akum, that you should return it. And Rev Reisman talks about a story of a chaver of his from his youth who was learning in Kollel. Excuse me. Who was learning in Kollel, and the bank made a $40,000 error in his favor for a mortgage that would not have been caught. He asked Rapam, should I keep the money and then I can learn in Kollel for another year, or should I return it, but then I'm going to have to go into the workforce, I'm going to have to get a job? And Rapam says, you should return it and you will be successful. In fact, he was, and he raised, from family. So the takeaway from this is bracha comes when one is honest. And I think nothing more need be said. Thank you for listening.